The little girl placed a worn pink piggy bank on the hospital counter with both hands, as if it were the most valuable treasure in the world. "I think this should be enough to save my daddy." Her voice was so small that it almost disappeared beneath the sound of ringing phones, rolling stretchers, and hurried footsteps. The receptionist looked at the cracked ceramic piggy bank, then at the little girl standing alone in oversized sneakers and a faded yellow jacket. "Honey, where's your mother?" The girl's smile faded. "My mommy is in heaven." The receptionist swallowed hard. "And your dad? He can't wake up. The ambulance brought him here." The woman behind the desk froze. The little girl gently pushed the piggy bank closer. "I counted it 3 times before I came. There's $68.43. I even added the shiny quarter Grandpa gave me because Daddy said emergencies are expensive." No one in the lobby spoke. No one knew that within the next few hours, one simple act from an 8-year-old child would change not only her father's life, but also the life of the doctor, who had nearly forgotten why he became a physician in the first place. Her name was Lily Parker. She lived with her father, Daniel, in a tiny rented house on the edge of a quiet Ohio town. Life hadn't been easy since Lily's mother died from breast cancer 4 years earlier. Daniel had promised his wife during her final days that he would raise Lily with enough love for both parents. He kept that promise every single day. He braided Lily's hair after watching online tutorials. He packed heart-shaped sandwiches into her lunchbox. He attended every school play, every parent meeting, every dance recital. Sometimes he burned dinner. Sometimes he forgot to separate the laundry. But he never forgot to tell Lily that she was the greatest gift God had ever trusted him with. Daniel worked long shifts repairing heating and air conditioning systems. The pay barely covered rent, groceries, and medical debt left behind after his wife's illness. Still, every Friday night they shared pizza on the living room floor while watching old movies. Every Saturday morning they walked to the park carrying stale bread to feed ducks. And every Sunday, Daniel dropped spare coins into Lily's piggy bank. "Saving teaches patience," he always said. "What am I saving for?" Lily once asked. Daniel smiled. "Something wonderful." She had no idea that one day she'd decide that something wonderful was simply having her father alive. It happened on an unusually hot July afternoon. Daniel had been working inside an attic with almost no ventilation. His customer found him collapsed beside his toolbox. By the time paramedics reached him, his pulse was dangerously weak. A severe heart infection, made worse by months of untreated symptoms, had pushed his body to the limit. Lily had been staying with an elderly neighbor after school. When she saw the flashing ambulance lights outside their house, she ran barefoot down the sidewalk. "Daddy!" A paramedic gently stopped her. "We're taking him to the hospital." "Is he going to die?" The paramedic couldn't answer. That silence terrified her more than any words ever could. The neighbor drove Lily to the hospital. After a long conversation with nurses, the elderly woman had to return home to care for her disabled husband. "I'll come back first thing in the morning." Lily nodded. She didn't want to leave. Hours passed. Doctors rushed in and out of Daniel's room. Nobody explained much to Lily except that her father needed emergency surgery. She overheard fragments of conversations. "No insurance. Very expensive. Critical condition." Those words echoed inside her head. She remembered every movie where hospitals asked families for money. Suddenly she knew exactly what she had to do. She asked a nurse if she could go home for a little while. The nurse assumed she was leaving with family and agreed. Lily walked nearly 2 miles alone. She entered the silent house. Everything still smelled like her father's coffee. She climbed onto a chair, reached the top shelf of her bedroom closet, and took down the pink piggy bank. She whispered softly, "Daddy needs something wonderful now." Then she smashed it carefully inside a towel so the pieces wouldn't scatter everywhere. She counted every coin, every dollar. Every crumpled bill. $68.43. She placed everything into a paper lunch bag and returned to the hospital. That was how she ended up standing at the front desk with tears threatening to spill from her eyes. The receptionist quietly called the chief physician. His name was Dr. Michael Harrison. At 62, he was respected across the state for performing complex heart surgeries. But years of impossible workloads, endless paperwork, lawsuits, insurance battles, and heartbreaking losses had changed him. Medicine had become routine. He still cared. He simply didn't remember what hope looked like anymore. Until he saw Lily. She held out the paper bag. "This is for my daddy." Dr. Harrison knelt until they were eye level. "Sweetheart, what's in the bag?" "My savings." "What are you buying?" She looked confused. "I'm not buying anything." He smiled gently. "You said this is for your father. Because fixing people costs money." She nodded toward the operating rooms. "If you don't have enough, I can wash dishes too." The doctor's throat tightened. She continued talking with complete sincerity. "I know it isn't much." She paused. "But it's everything I have." Those words struck him harder than anything he'd heard in decades. "Everything I have." He slowly opened the paper bag. Coins. Dollar bills. The shiny quarter. A tiny handwritten note rested at the bottom. It read, "Dear Doctor, please help my daddy. He's my whole family. Love. Lily." Dr. Harrison stopped reading. His vision blurred. For the first time in years, tears rolled freely down his face in the middle of a crowded hospital. The nurses had never seen him cry. Neither had the residents. He carefully folded the note and slipped it into his coat pocket. "You keep your money," he whispered. Lily immediately shook her head. "No." "Why not?" "Because Daddy says people should always pay honest people for honest work." The doctor laughed through his tears. Then he hugged her. A real hug. The kind that says words are no longer enough. That evening Dr. Harrison made several phone calls. He contacted former medical school classmates, a pharmaceutical company, a local charity, the hospital foundation. He personally waived every surgeon's fee he legally could. Other specialists followed his example. The anesthesiologist volunteered. The intensive care staff donated part of their overtime bonuses. Within hours, every expense connected to Daniel's surgery had been covered. Not because anyone had been asked. Because everyone had heard about one little girl and her piggy bank. Daniel underwent surgery just before sunrise. It lasted nearly 6 hours. Lily spent every minute sitting outside the operating room holding the empty paper bag. Finally the doors opened. Dr. Harrison removed his surgical cap. He looked exhausted. Lily jumped to her feet. "Did you fix him?" The doctor smiled. "We did." She threw her arms around him so tightly he almost lost his balance. "My daddy gets to come home." "He will." "When?" "As soon as he gets stronger." She burst into happy tears. "So my piggy bank worked." The doctor laughed softly. "Yes, sweetheart. It worked better than you could ever imagine." Weeks later Daniel slowly recovered. When he learned what Lily had done, he cried harder than he had since his wife's funeral. "You gave away everything you owned." Lily shrugged. "I can always save again." Then she hugged him. "I can't save another daddy." News of the story spread after one of the nurses anonymously shared it online. Millions of people watched interviews with Lily and Daniel. Letters arrived from every state. Children mailed spare change collected from lemonade stands. Retired couples sent handwritten cards with small donations for struggling families. Teachers began classroom projects encouraging students to help local hospitals. Communities organized kindness funds in Lily's name. What started as $68.43 became millions of dollars donated nationwide to help Families facing medical emergencies. But the greatest change happened inside Dr. Harrison. He framed Lily's handwritten note and placed it in his office. Whenever exhaustion, frustration, or grief threatened to overwhelm him, he read the same simple sentence: "He's my whole family." Years later, during his retirement speech, hundreds of doctors gathered to honor his remarkable career. People expected him to talk about groundbreaking surgeries or medical achievements. Instead, he reached into his wallet. Inside was the same faded note Lily had written years before. "I've received awards," he said. "I've performed thousands of surgeries. I've taught generations of physicians. But the greatest lesson I ever learned didn't come from medical school." He held up the note. It came from an 8-year-old girl who believed $68.43 could save her father. The audience stood in silence. Many wiped away tears. Dr. Harrison smiled. "She reminded me that medicine is not built only on science. It is built on compassion. Skill can repair a heart, but kindness gives people a reason to keep beating." After the ceremony, Lily, now a young woman studying to become a pediatric nurse, walked onto the stage beside her father. Daniel was healthy again, with a few silver hairs and a grateful smile that never seemed to fade. Lily handed Dr. Harrison a small wrapped box. Inside was a brand new pink ceramic piggy bank. A tiny card rested beneath it. It read, "For the next little miracle." The old doctor laughed until tears filled his eyes once more. He placed the piggy bank on his desk the very next day. Whenever children visited the hospital, they dropped in pennies, nickels, quarters, or dollar bills. No amount was ever too small. Those coins eventually created a permanent emergency fund that quietly helped families who had nowhere else to turn. Most of them never learned where the idea came from. But every life touched by that little fund carried forward the same truth an 8-year-old girl had proven on the hardest day of her life. The greatest gifts are not measured by how much we give. They are measured by how much love remains in our hearts after we have given everything we have.